So my boy Chedburn has written in.
The Ched.
And he was talking about some of the stuff we talked about. So we've been talking obviously about icy moons, Mars, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to point to some of the places we thought were like best places to look for life in the solar system. Well, he's asking us the question basically. What are your thoughts on the chances that we discover life at all in the solar system? So we didn't really discuss that. We discussed
it's a different question.
It's a different question.
Yeah.
So
it's not where's the best chance.
No.
It's what do you think our chances are of actually discovering life in the solar system?
Well, yeah. What are your thoughts on the chances we discover life? So you could take that as what are the chances we will actually discover it?
Yeah.
Or that it is there?
Yes, which is again two slightly different things.
I think we'll maybe be able to answer both of them in a kind of
roundabout.
I don't really know sort of way.
Yeah. Which is ultimately the answer.
Yeah.
It's really hard because you kind of have to go on essentially gut feel, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've
thinking. Well, you carry on.
We've got one example of a planet that has habitable conditions and has life on it.
Yeah.
So we go on gut feeling in a sense, but there's some data, there's some empirical evidence you can try and draw from.
Yeah.
So we've got a habitable environment. Our only example of a habitable environment has life in it. So do we think does that extrapolate out? Is that a common thing? We don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then do we, then you look for habitable environments around the solar system. Were there any habitable environments? We've discussed this before. So we've talked about ancient Mars. That's probably the one where we've said before, that's the one where it's pretty much nailed down was habitable.
Yes.
The icy moons are not so clearly habitable in their subsurface.
There's problems going on that we discussed last time or the week before, especially with Europa and some weird chemistry going on. And
salts and hydrogen peroxide and whatnot. We can see basically at least one definite,
well, most likely habitable. Based on everything that we know about early Mars, seems like totally habitable. Why not?
Yeah. So the question is then, he's asking, are we going to find life?
Yeah.
So that means that life may have died out on ancient Mars, of course.
Yeah.
So that may
but we could still find evidence for it.
Traces of it. So I think that counts.
That
as
would definitely count
as a negative
as a discovery.
As a discovery of life.
There's life off the Earth. There was at one point life off the Earth.
Life today, again, that's another dimension to the question.
Yeah.
So basically, I think that therefore in a way the question is, was there life on ancient Mars?
Yeah, kind of is that, isn't it?
Because that's the absolute definite absolute definite. I mean, it's as close as definite as you'll get to a habitable environment at the moment in the solar system.
Yeah. What do you actually think? Do you lean either way? Do you think that it was more likely there was and more likely there wasn't?
So we'll talk about, obviously all of it boils down to stuff we're going to talk about today is how common is the origin of life? How long does it take for life to evolve out of nothing?
Yeah.
And we don't know the answer to that. Well, we know. Well, we
can put constraints on it.
So it probably takes. We're looking at how long. We'll just start talking about it now. How long it takes roughly from when you had water on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
To life, see the first signs of life we get in the fossil record,
which
is like 200 million years.
It could, it could be as little as 200 million years, or as much as maybe 500.
Yeah.
At the wider end.
Yeah, with the much more definite signatures of life.
Yes, the stuff at 200 million years is like, I don't know.
It's getting a bit borderline.
It's getting a bit borderline. There's some suggestive evidence of life there. I think some people think it's pretty strong evidence.
Yes.
But you're right. So pushing it back to maybe 500 million, it's still a 500 million years.
Yes.
In the great scheme of things, isn't.
It's a considerable chunk of time. It's a reasonable amount of time. The universe is 13. Billion.
It's the same length of time that it's taken to go from like single cell eukaryotes up to us, basically.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Which is quite long.
Yeah, it's quite long.
So
that is quite long, but then early Mars was definitely, well, I say definitely, seems to have been fairly reasonably habitable for that length of time early in its history.
Yeah.
That kind of happy, nice, like dilute water.
Good Mars, the good times.
The good Mars, yeah, the good times.
The golden age of Mars.
Yeah, that lasted for potentially 0.8 to 1 billion years. So about 800 million years to 1 billion years, somewhere in that time frame. Yeah. So there's possibly time based on what we see on Earth.
So the second question is, are there the right environments?
Yeah.
So are there the types of environments that may favour the generation or the spontaneous origin of life? Did they exist on Mars in the same way? So we're going to talk about more about this in this episode. I mean,
we'll come back to this question a bit as we go through to refine what we're saying, like our answer.
Yes, but I mean, I don't know how much evidence there is of certain types of hydrothermal vents and things on Mars. There's certainly evidence of volcanism and water.
There's definitely evidence of hydrothermal activity.
Yeah.
At least there's thought to be.
But of this particular type of...
Well, I don't know, actually, for sure.
So there may be a particular type of hydrothermal vent that is required, maybe, for life to come about. So maybe not. If those types of environments were able to exist, it's very, I think we would say, alkaline hydrothermal vents.
Yes.
Did exist then on Mars, then I mean I'll go down the route of saying probably there was life on Mars. I would guess there was life on Mars. Yeah,
it makes sense, doesn't it? It kind of, unless there's some other like ingredient that Earth had that Mars didn't, which seems quite unlikely, given. So if alkaline hydrothermal vents were the origin of life on Earth, and if they did exist on Mars at that time, I mean, I think if you knew that, if you could say that for certain, then I'd probably go down the route of saying it's probably likely.
And I'm not sure we have that information. I don't think we do. I'm pretty sure we don't have that very specific piece of information.
We definitely don't. For a start, we don't know if alkaline hydrothermal vents were the origin of life on Earth.
No. But we're hedging bets here. So without that piece of information,
so based on what we've just got now,
do you say you've got to say yes or no? You can't say maybe.
Okay. Well, I mean, my default answer would be I'm completely on the fence.
Yes, of course.
But if I can't say that, I
really don't know.
I really don't know either.
I said you can't say I don't know, but I don't know.
I feel like surely the default
position should be yes or no.
Interesting. I was going to say no.
Why are you going to say no?
I was going to say no. Yeah.
Why?
That's a good question.
Just because it's the...
I'm trying to put it in a word that's not just gut feeling.
Yeah, but that... Well, I mean,
basically, it comes down to what's the more... If we just like Occam's razor, like which scenario requires more assumption? An inhabited ancient Mars or an uninhabited ancient Mars, just given the information that we have now.
Yeah, and those are habitable and uninhabitable. They're both habitable, sorry.
They're both habitable.
Yeah, but one is uninhabited and one is...
I don't know, actually, yeah.
Maybe the Occam's razor is that the origin of life is very rare.
Yes, exactly.
And therefore it's less likely to have happened multiple times in one solar system just because of pure chance. The other alternative, though, is that it isn't that rare and that it is a natural thermodynamic consequence of having a particular chemical system there. Yeah. And if you've got that chemical system, then actually the probability is that it would happen. That it does happen, and it's not particularly surprising that it does happen.
Yeah,
and therefore the default Occam's razor
would be that it's more likely.
It's more likely,
and that you'd actually have to think up some kind of way of stopping it happening.
Yes.
To explain it not being there.
Yes.
There'd have to be some kind of like event or something that stops it. That actually it is a fairly ubiquitous and normal process on a planet. So again, we've just come back to the middle again, haven't we? I mean, the tricky thing is we just don't know enough about what it is and the processes on planets that lead to its formation to be able to actually answer it.
And the other thing is, if we and this is gut feeling, really is gut feeling. It just seems too cool, like too incredible for us to actually find. Oh my! Like there was ancient life on Mars.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It seems like science fiction.
Yeah, it's that but classic thing. It's the classic thing of something that's never happened before happening.
Yes,
always feels like it could. It's
that
impossible.
It's impossible. That it's never going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't
help. That doesn't help.
That's a sampling bias basically. Yeah. That's no use to us.
Observer bias, kind of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
So that maybe that's not a good reason to turn it down or say either way, really.
No.
I mean, the part of me just thinks, if we've the data we've got, we've got one habitable environment we know of for sure that is and it's inhabited. So we just have to go with the stats and suggest that that's probably what it's more likely to be like in the rest
if we
of the
just
place.
assume that this is an average.
Sort of, yeah.
Well, kind of. I mean, obviously we're not. Mars doesn't look like the Earth currently.
No, but a habitable environment with these hydrothermal or aqueous kind of interactions start things going on, then the that's our only piece of evidence.
If you were to go back in time, to the early history of the Earth and Mars, that time, and you could observe both planets from afar, and you could see like that they both had water on the surface, active hydrological systems, all this stuff going on, and then you had the opportunity to directly closely sample one of the planets, and you sampled the Earth, and you found life around a hydrothermal vent or whatever. Then, given the information you have about the two planets being very similar, and given the fact that you've sampled one and it had life on it, you would probably conclude that there was life on the other one, or it's likely that there was life on the other one. There's a good argument that there would be life on the other one.
Yeah, if you couldn't visually distinguish them. Yeah. So, but then obviously Mars and the Earth are the different.
Which is kind
planets.
of the scenario
that
we've got. Yeah,
they have different geological systems, etc.
They do, which makes a big difference as you go forward through time, obviously.
But did it make
because Mars has gone on a very different trajectory than the Earth has. Yeah. But way back in those early years. Maybe, based on the data that we have, which is the Earth, the example that we have, which is the Earth, and our knowledge of early Mars, maybe it does actually make more sense to the null assumption to be that there was life there. Shit. If that's what I think, then that's cool.
That's a good answer. He did also say, he gave some of his opinions on it. If there is life on Mars, I'd almost definitely expect it to have the same origin of life as on Earth.
That interesting, because that's the other thing, isn't it? Is that it's not just about the origin of life, which we'll talk about today, but it's also the fact that we know material gets transferred around, and probably was transferred around a lot more in the early sort of history of the planets. Yeah. So that adds. So if we just count a discovery of life on Mars, and it's fine that it's Earth life, and it's not just like around one of the rovers that we've sent up. It really bedded down and became part of the planet. Yeah. Part of the planet's systems. Then that makes it even more likely that there was life on Mars that established itself for a long period of time, because there was a lot of exchange between material from the Earth and Mars. Yeah, and then it begs the question of like where the actual original sort of origin of life was. Yeah, but you could potentially trace that. Well, you might be able to trace that back in terms of mapping it to our tree of life. Yeah. Does that change my view? I mean, it kind of just makes it more likely. It kind of makes it more likely, yeah. Given that scenario that I was just sort of badly describing of being able to look at the two early planets side by side. Yeah. So adding in the extra bit of information that material gets chucked between the two, surely that only makes it more likely that you would assume that there was life there on Mars. Yeah. So I think it's there's life on Mars. That's it. I think that's. You don't want to assume something or make a definite kind of statement, which is exactly what I did. I didn't actually mean that's what I think. No, but you obviously any time you go into these things, you want to keep it. If I'm being forced to pick a side to bet, you're just betting money on it. It's just like a bet. Yeah, it's like a football result or something. You're just gonna bet. Yeah, I don't want to bet that much money on it, but put a $5 on it. Yeah, I'll put a $5 on it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what the odds are. I wonder how much money you could rake in. Interesting. I don't know. But would you bet yes or no? Would you spending your money? Yeah, I mean, if $5, I'd bet on. I'd bet on life. Given the discussion we've just had, I think I would. I feel like that's the more likely, just based on what we currently know. It seems like it probably is the more likely one. You just kind of have to assume that there's something magical going on the Earth that Mars never had. Who knows? Which definitely might have been the case. Yeah, the transferring of material makes it particularly particularly compelling, that more argument. But it's that thing. I can't believe that it actually is possible that Yeah.
that it is a realistic prospect.
I know,
Buried in the
that-
Martian subsurface, if you drill down far enough, you extract layers, and there's obvious
just
signatures of life.
definite, unambiguous
Yeah.
life. Or
Or
evidence of
exactly.
some kind of microfossils or some kind of
Whatever,
whatever
yeah.
chemistry stuff. Yeah. That it's just waiting there. So that's the other half of it is do you think we will ever discover it? So I guess it's possible that you can have life existing in the solar system that we will never ever find.
Yeah.
I think if early Mars was inhabited,
Yeah.
and we continue our exploration of the solar system, we will inevitably discover that.
Yeah.
Because unlike that age of material on the Earth, of which there's hardly any, and it's usually heavily like metamorphosed and crushed and all that stuff, on Mars there's actually quite a lot of material on the surface or near the surface from that time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been quite reasonably well
quite
preserved.
easy to access.
So,
Like, is the contamination thing ever a problem?
Yeah.
If the life we find looks like it maps, if it's extant life, and it maps to our tree of life, then there's always that question of,
yeah.
Well, it should be obvious though that it should be quite branched off.
Yeah, and that'll obviously
And the
be a
molecular
thing
clock,
that...
all the bits that you normally use to determine how long things have been separate, should be quite distinct. You should find the proof should be in the organism itself, the structure of, whether it uses different, totally different systems inside it, or maps onto our tree of life and actually is clearly distinguishable or very similar. Those types of things should tell us whether they're separate or not, and whether we've got contamination or not.
Yeah, it'll be one of the first things that gets addressed, obviously.
Yeah.
One of the first things I'll have to rule out.
That shouldn't be a
shouldn't
barrier.
be a barrier, no, I don't think.
To discovering
especially
life
if it's ancient life and it's signatures of ancient life rather than extant life. But
things like isotopes and all sorts of stuff, but you just build up a case for your argument. So So the answers are: we think it's probably quite likely that there's. No.
Being forced to pick one of the...
Yes.
My default position is to be pretty much on the fence.
Yes.
But being forced to pick in a completely rational way, I think it's... Yeah, I think I've taught myself...
I could probably talk myself back round to no, but I'll talk myself round to yes for now, and that we will
discover it if we continue exploring the solar system and don't just stop for some reason.
Yeah.
Those are two pretty good answers, actually. As in, I don't mean
good for us.
I mean good
exciting.
for science, like exciting answers.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.